Have you ever stopped to think about how the ancient cults of Moloch and Baal, practiced millennia ago, influenced the religions that shape the world today? Their beliefs and rituals may have left a profound mark on Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In this research, we will uncover the ancient cults of sacrifice, impacted the formation of major religion traditions, and how their influence still resonates today. By watching this video, you will discover the secrets behind these cults and how their sacred practices became central to the construction of moral and religious ethics in the modern world. The historic theological sector of this research will help us understand how the past shaped the present. Stay with us until the end and get ready to expand your view in this field of research. The cults of Moloch and Baal played significant role in the ancient civilization of Canaan and Phoenicia, with roots that go back thousands of years before Christ. Moloch, often associated with fire, was a Canaanite god to whom followers believed they must sacrifice children. Yes, I repeat it, they must sacrifice children as a part of ritual dedicated to fertility, prosperity, and protection. The cult of Moloch was not an isolated practice. It was a part of a complex network of Canaanite cults that employed extreme rituals to try to manipulate cosmic forces to their advantage. Baal, on the other hand, was a primary religious figure in the Middle Eastern civilizations, especially among the Phoenicians and Canaanites. He was worshipped as a god of fertility, storms, and vegetation, thought to be responsible for abundance and natural cycles to ensure good harvest and fertility. The cult involved in intense rituals, which in addition to dances and food offerings, often included human sacrifices, and followers believed that their offerings, including human lives, were necessary to appease his wrath and ensure the well-being of the community. These cults were deeply ingrained in the religious traditions of these cultures, with ceremonies performed in sacred spaces such as elevated altars, temples dedicated to gods, priests, and other religious figures. The worship of carved images of the deities, however, these violent practices and human sacrifices stood in stark contrast to the beliefs that would eventually emerge within the monotheistic faiths with the cult of Moloch and Baal. These worship practices, particularly the ritual of human sacrifice, including the sacrifice of children, was seen as both a religious threat and a profound moral affront. The Old Testament books like Leviticus and Jeremiah explicitly condemned these practices, viewing them as grave transgressions against God and violation of sacredness of human life. For example, Leviticus 18:21 forbid giving children to Moloch, emphasizing the ethical degradation associated with such acts. Prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel frequently warned against the worship of Baal, which often tempted the Israelites. Jeremiah 19:5 illustrated the extent of this transgression as the Israelites were drawn into Baal's cultic practices. A pivotal movement in the rejection of the idolatrous customs occurred when the prophet Elijah confronted Baal's followers on Mount Carmel. As detailed in 1 Kings 18, Elijah's challenge revealed the importance of Baal's prophets and affirmed the power of God of Israel, marking a turning point in the battle against these cults. Israel's opposition to the cult of Moloch and Baal reflected only on the theological disputes but also on a cultural and moral struggle. By rejecting these practices, the Israelites reinforced a value system that sanctified human life. As Christianity emerged, it maintained this opposition, an opposition to Baal and all the practices that involved its worship, rejecting the influences of Moloch and Baal, which persisted in a certain pagan practice. Early Christian teachings, heavily influenced by Jewish traditions, opposed human sacrifice. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul urged Christians to flee from human sacrifices, as seen in 1 Corinthians 10:14 in the Bible, underscoring the incompatibility of such practices with faith in the one true God. The sacrifice of Christ on the cross was considered the ultimate atonement. Further, it emphasized the rejection of human bloodletting that was seen common in these cults. Christianity introduced a new ethic centered on forgiveness, mercy, and the intrinsic value of human life, standing in stark contrast to the cruel rituals of the pagan cults. Similarly, the rise of the Islam, which arose in the polytheistic context where the god, like Baal, was still worshipped in parts like Arabia, also sought to abolish these practices. Both religions poisoned themselves against the inhumane sacrifices and manipulative rituals of the cult of Moloch and Baal, symbolizing a shift towards a moral and a spiritual ethos, valuing human life and divine justice. The narrative of Moloch, a figure shrouded in mystery and controversy, remains a compelling subject of historical and theological inquiry. Rooted in ancient texts, particularly in the Hebrew Bible, Moloch is often depicted as a deity associated with practice of child sacrifice by fire, a cruel and a grim act condemned by the biblical scripture. While references of Moloch appear in the Old Testament, including Leviticus, these accounts raise questions about whether Moloch was a literal god or a symbol of societal or cultural practices. In ancient world, Moloch's legacy extended beyond Hebrew tradition. Archaeological discoveries in Carthage, such as burial sites containing the remains of children, provide evidence of rituals that some link to Moloch. These findings suggest that sacrificial practices may have been a reality in the societies. The image of Moloch has been shaped by historical propaganda. Romans during the Punic Wars portrayed the Carthaginians as savage enemies, using accounts of Moloch's ritual to demonize their rivals. This raises the possibility that Moloch's association with children's sacrifice might have been exaggerated or manipulated by different groups of people over the period of time. The myth of Baal, the storm god of the ancient Near Eastern mythology, offers a profound exploration of themes like life, death, renewal, and the cyclic nature of existence. Baal, often called the rider of the clouds, is a central figure in the Canaanite pantheon, revered for his control over rain and fertility, elements crucial to the agriculture cycles of the region. His stories unfolds as a grand epic, beginning with the ascension to power after the fierce battle with Yam, the god of the sea. Yam, representing chaos and destruction, symbolizes the untamed forces of nature that threaten stability. Baal triumphs over Yam, not only establishes him as a protector, but also reflects humanity's enduring struggle to impose order to the natural world. Now, in the modern world, the theory that suggests that many high-profile figures, including musicians, celebrities, and politicians, engage in secretive rituals to worship ancient or occult gods in exchange for wealth, power, and fame, comes in handy after knowing the ideological and theological basis of Baal and Moloch. Proponent to this theory often points to events like gathering at Bohemian Grove, where a giant owl statue, interpreted by some as a representation of the ancient deity Moloch, is centered to an alleged ceremony. These gatherings, often shrouded in secrecy, fuel speculation about connection to dark rituals aimed at invoking supernatural favor. The theory posed that these influential individuals believe such worship allows them to secure worldly success or dominate spheres to influence, perpetuating a hidden system of control. Critics dismiss these claims as baseless or exaggerated, yet the enduring intrigue around such ritual continues to feed the narrative, blending historical references with modern fears of power of manipulation. If we have to sum up everything that we learned today, Moloch, Baal, Anat, Mot, Jesus, Islam, Allah. All these gods, all these prophecies, all these psychological and philosophical teachings point to one thing, and that is religion is either a stupid answer to a stupid question, or it is the very essence of the universe. The cycle of religion becoming a never-ending cycle of life and death remains till date. This is the end of the research #7, the mystery and the research surrounding Moloch and Baal.